I haven't done this in so long. Every time I take like a break, which is not even, I just record whenever I want to, but anytime I come back to doing this after not doing it for a long time, it's like I forget what to do. So welcome, or welcome back to my channel. So my name is Kiara. I have dived deep into the world of Alex Aster and I feel like I can't get out. I started doing this script and going through Alex Aster's newest, Diana, please don't hit my camera. My dog just has like a radar, I think, for when I'm recording and filming. Anyway, so at the time I was making the script, like making the notes for Starside, I was reading Naomi Novik. I was reading Uprooted. So I was reading Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and I had to pause my reading of that, which is a good book, to pick up Starside because I saw on Libby that there were 4 people waiting for it, and then it actually became 5 people waiting for it. I had to try and finish in time. I didn't. And I had to go back, wait for the book again for like a few weeks, and then get it on hold again, and then finish it. And I was literally like so close to finishing, but towards the end, I was getting so frustrated, bored. I don't know, I just couldn't like get through. It was like maybe 20% left that I had. I was gonna wait to read it anyway. I was like, maybe I'll just, let the other people online have it and then I'll just read it when I can. But so many people were like waiting to read this book and I just wanted to see what the fuss was about. I heard that people liked it. I didn't hear like the massive, when Lightlark came out, there was a lot of drama. I saw some people like it. I've also seen like a lot of people say it's almost like a copy of Lightlark and that it might be Lightlark fan fiction. Lightlark is supposedly Alex Aster's YA romantasy. This is her adult romantasy, which, they read similar. The only difference is that there's more cussing. Kind of, not really. Like there's a lot of cussing in Crown Tide. So I think she's kind of pulling like a Sarah J Maas where like Throne of Glass was supposedly YA, and the more like the series progressed, it was like more sex scenes, more violent, I'm assuming. I honestly quit reading that series. I just got really bored. So if you don't know who Alex Aster is, I did cover a little bit about her in my first video on the first book in the Lightlark series, and other people have done like more in-depth videos on her specifically. I don't really like touch on her a lot just because I'm here for the books. I'm here for the books and the stories and to talk about the stories. Allegedly, Alex Aster's career has been supported by many. Her sister might have some connections. There were things about like Selena Gomez, that her sister worked for Selena Gomez. There are people who like the Lightlark series. There are people who like Starside, like I said. I think that's great, and I am happy when people like stuff. My thing is never to make people not like things. And at this point, I'm just reading for the love and joy of the cringe. It should be an Olympic sport, and I would represent proudly. I would probably secure the gold, honestly. Like Jennifer Lopez's visual album that she did about her and Ben Affleck, for which, they subsequently divorced. I watched the whole thing, loved every minute of it. With that being said, I'm so sad that I never got the chance to read Age of Scorpius. From what I have seen, what I've heard from other people's, like, who actually read it, from other people's breakdowns of that story, seems to be just as bad as Lightlark, maybe slightly worse. Milo Winter, the author of that book, doesn't seem to have much of a writing career as of right now. Alex Aster is still publishing books and has multiple book deals. One has connections and the other does not, as I have observed. So do with that what you will. So Lightlark is a series that Alex Aster is most famous for, but while promoting it, that it was going to be published, that it was coming out, she was known for making it seem as if she had never written a book before, or like she had never been published. She had been like a middle grade series, I think, or like children's, but she had been. But Lightlark, she became honestly more so notorious for it because it just got so much press for being so bad. This is the synopsis of Lightlark, the first book. Welcome to the Centennial. Every 100 years, the island of Lightlark appears to host the Centennial, a deadly game that only the rulers of 6 realms are invited to play. The invitation is a summons, a call to embrace victory and ruin, baubles, and blood. The Centennial offers the 6 rulers one final chance to break the curses that have plagued their realms for centuries. Each ruler has something to hide. Each realm's curse is uniquely wicked. To destroy the curses, one ruler must die. Isla Crown is the young ruler of Wildling, a realm of temptresses, cursed to kill anyone they fall in love with. They are feared and despised, and are counting on Isla to end their suffering by oh my god, girl. I was not starting off good. Succeeding. I wanted to say seceding, and I was doing so well. And they're suffering by succeeding at the Centennial. To survive, Isla must lie, cheat, and betray, even as love complicates everything. The series of Lightlark is close to being done. Starside is Alex Aster's new series, and it is set to be a trilogy, but I've heard that lie before. Lightlark was supposed to be like a duology, I believe, and then it became 3 books, then 4 books, then 5. And who knows if that's ending. I think it is actually ending because it seems like Alex Aster would now be focusing on Starside. Starside, it will probably be a longer series. Who knows? But so this is the Starside synopsis for the first book in the supposed trilogy. This is much longer too, so... Hundreds of years ago, a brutal war split a land in 2. Starside is the realm of magic, and mortals, the descendants of the gods, living in a power-rich paradise. Stormside is where mortals fight for scraps of that magic. Every 50 years, the gates between them open, and 50 challengers are allowed to journey across Starside on a deadly quest to access a pool of magic that can heal, grant wealth, or extend life. Everyone has their reasons for entering, but Aris has only vengeance. As a child, a goddess set fire to her village, killing her family. Aris isn't after the gods' magic, she's going to kill them. First, she must survive the culling, the king's deadly competition to choose his 50 challengers. An orphaned blacksmith's apprentice, Aris doesn't have the superior weapons of the heirs from the great houses. But the greatest swords, ones that contain power, are not inherited or bought. They are claimed by both sides. And when Aris claims a great sword, it makes her not just a real competitor, but a target. Getting past the gates is only the beginning. Starside is deadlier than it seems. If the ancient creatures, magic-wielding beasts, and bloodthirsty immortals weren't dangerous enough, a new peril has even immortals fearing what rises from the ground at night. With a blade most would kill to claim, Aris can't trust anyone, especially not Harlan Raker, the merciless and mysterious king's guard who betrayed her years ago, and who may now be the key to her survival. But Aris is hiding a secret tied to her family's death, and when it's revealed, not even the gods will be able to stop what's coming. It is similar to Lightlark already, so that's it for the preamble. Let's get it, let's go. Chapter 1. There's a difference already between Lightlark and Starside, because the first sentence, it's literally, the first sentence in Starside, it goes, "This will kill me." So we're working with a protagonist, one protagonist, and one point of view of that protagonist, whereas Lightlark was third person. So a lot of writers do seem to struggle with first person. I found it hard at times to differentiate even anyway between her and Isla, like this protagonist in Starside versus Isla, they get quite similar. They're similar. In the first chapter, I said the main character's name in the synopsis, so you would know it if you read the synopsis, fair. But the first chapter, we don't actually know her name yet, but we're in her head. She's moving through this crowd of people, and she is holding a dagger, but it's concealed, so she has a concealed weapon. So the narrator, she's approaching a platform, and she says that is the platform where people fight to get on. So based on the synopsis, this is how those in Stormside get to Starside, and then they'll compete in the Questral. That's what it's called. My assumption is then validated by the narrator saying at the very bottom of page 1 that 50 of us mortals will be allowed past the gates into the land of the immortals to undergo a deadly journey. As the mortals go through this journey, many of them are killed, many of them do not make it alive, but when they make it through the quest, they end up having the chance to receive magic, which they can take back to Stormside. The magic can grant wealth, prosperity, healing, I guess. I don't know. From the first chapter, there are just 50 coveted spots. Hundreds will fight to the death for them during the king's mysterious culling, but to even qualify for the culling, you must first reach the platform. A ring of king's guards surrounds the stone, their well-worn silver armor glinting beneath the blazing sun. I squint, trying to find the one guard I need to stay the hell away from, but he's noticeably missing. Strange. Relief slides down my spine. My chances are pretty much fucked as it is. There we go. F word number 1. But at least I won't be going up against him. The king's eyes and ears, known only as the Watchman, stands just left of the stone. A gleaming silver hawk perched on his arm, one of the king's coveted rarities. Silver is the color of the gods. As the most powerful figure on this side, the king believes he's owed everything in that hue. Harboring creatures of the shade is a crime punishable by death. I had questions on what the difference was between like the culling, the questral, the journey. That understanding will come later. So my question at the time though was like, I didn't get the difference. It was confusing. Like if you actually read the first chapter, like now I understand, but when you read the first chapter, it's not clear like what's the questral. I thought that they were fighting. I thought the fight to get on the platform was the questral. And then like they do the culling and then they just go on their journey. But they fight to get on the platform, which doesn't really have a name. They're just fighting to qualify to get to the questral. Nope, they're fighting to qualify to get to the culling, which is something the king has them do. And then they get to the questral, which is when they get to Starside. As mentioned in the paragraph, a ring of king's guards are surrounding the platform. The narrator's looking for one guard in particular, and she doesn't see him, which makes her feel better, sort of. But we're only to assume that if she's so like not wanting him to be there, and he's like big and bad and powerful, he's very obviously not going to ever be mentioned again. But so the king's guard, he does have a silver hawk. So silver in this world is the color of the gods. I wanted it to be like silver themed, and come to find out I don't have a lot of silver. Oh well. So no one can own an animal who is silver. They can be put to death for doing so. Like one would assume that silver animals are powerful. Protagonist does say that they can be used as weapons the older they get. That I don't even know if that really comes around again. Maybe Stormside. But so the Silver Hawk will act as a timer, letting everybody know when the battle starts, how much longer they have, and when it ends. So we get a description of the main character. She lets us know that she's not particularly tall. She's skinny because of lack of nourishment. She's probably poor, and she's very, very pale. There's an F word on page 2 this time. Because I had this on Kindle, I was able to search and see how many times the word fuck or any other variation of it comes up. It's 224 times. It's funny. It's funny if you think about it. My 2 cents is that adding swear words and like sex and violence doesn't necessarily make it adult. It makes it inappropriate for children. But like my mom was a big reader in like the 80s, and she would literally go to the library alone and just read whatever book she wanted to read. So I don't care if like a kid wants to read what they want to read, obviously, but it's again not something that I would like suggest to kids. But again, adding swear words, violence, sexually explicit content, it means that you can't like market to kids, but it doesn't like add maturity. The way characters behave adds to the maturity and like the themes that are explored. And if you don't hit that, then it's just a children's book with a lot of cussing and sex. But like, you can't give it to kids, so who's it for? The protagonist gets hit. I thought she was in a fight. I don't even really know what hit her, but she just shimmies her way through the crowd some more. Then she runs into a man who is there clearly for the fight. He eyes her suspiciously, but she remains coy and keeps her dagger hidden. I think she does mention her adoptive father being there, so he is a blacksmith. There are times like within the story, and it is designated for the past, so oftentimes, so we're in present tense. So it's not just first person, but we're in present tense. But sometimes the protagonist is thinking about a memory, and so Alex Aster will put it in italics to let you know. But so we're in present tense. The protagonist is about to get into this fight. She thinks back on her adoptive father, who's named Stellan. He took her in, he raised her in his forge. He didn't want her to participate in this brawl, to then go to the culling, to then go to the questral. He did do it at one point. He's like basically her Haymitch. He was successful in it, and she had like begged him to tell her how to be successful. He could have. She was determined to do it anyway, so if he was really worried about her dying, then he could have just told her like how to succeed. I mean, he did kind of. We'll get there. This man that the protagonist ran into earlier, who was very clearly like participating in this fight, he leers at her. He touches her inappropriately. She has to refrain from acting violently. Her strategy is to appear as if she's just a spectator and not a participant. This fight begins. A guy like from somewhere up above tries to jump onto the platform, but one of the guards blocks and then stabs him, and then the body is thrown into a fire, and that fire will be used for all who are unsuccessful. So they'll just chuck the bodies into the fire. Metal in this, there's different types of metal that are considered good and bad, and like certain metal is like magic metal. Silver is not the strongest of all the metals, but it's of what's available to people in Stormside, it is the strongest. It's not the strongest of metals in this world, but it's the strongest for people in Stormside. I did make a note in Lightlark, the series, Shademade is a made up metal that it's super important. I don't really know why, aside from the fact that it like will drain people's powers. But then also Isla gets like armor made of Shademade, I'm pretty sure. I don't have time to get into that. But here we have silver, which is a real life metal and is not particularly strong. What were medieval swords made out of? So like iron, steel, like silver is pretty, but it's actually like a very soft metal. So it's just interesting. Like you have to pretend like you don't know anything about silver, and that maybe in this world silver is a completely different thing. I don't know. I think I'm going too into silver, but I just thought that was interesting. Other combatants have swords made of copper, tin, and aluminum. I don't know how that works, but okay. What would be the point of that? I don't know. It just feels a little silly because like I can imagine somebody bringing an aluminum sword into battle and like, how are you using that? Anyway, so all these people are trying to get on the platform. Time goes on. So the next surge of volunteers is already rushing forward. More metal fractures and breaks, I'm sure, if they're using an aluminum sword. But so panic rises within me like a bitter tide. My eyes widen at the blood, already spilling rivers across the stone and dirt around it. But my thumb traces the etchings down the hilt that I carved myself, the curve of a flame that mirrors the one currently melting a pile of flesh and bone, a reminder of why I am here. For you. I'm doing this for you. So a legion comes forward, making a way for a character named Kadok. Kadok is dressed in gold armor, and he is the heir of House Bolter, one of the 5 remaining great houses on Stormside. So they're like the aristocracy. The Bolters control most of the land, food, so others in town rely completely on them. They send their eldest child through the gates, and they then return with magic and they hoard the magic, and they've been doing this for a really long time, so they have a lot of it. Like, without a doubt, Kadok is getting to the platform because he literally has like a army with him. I forget how much is in a legion. What? Why do you have that many people? I mean, like, typically, I mean, a legion would have like several thousand people. So that's a lot of people for like this little fight. I mean, I guess there's hundreds of people trying to make it on the platform, but that's a lot of people. Honestly, like, I would just move with them. That would actually be really, that would have been really smart if the protagonist somehow snuck her way. If she somehow snuck her way into, I don't know how that would, I mean, you could write it, but if she snuck her way into the Legion and like found her way onto the platform, that'd have been kind of cool. So there's a child in the skirmish and the protagonist saves him, but she messes up her strategy by doing this. She was trying to, I don't know how long she was planning to keep herself hidden, but now everybody has noticed her. They also notice her dagger as well. At this point, it's not said what it is, but it's able to, I think it's able to break somebody else's silver weapon. And then a guard had a reaction to it. So anyway, so the same man from before who assaulted our protagonist, he tries to attack her, but she slices through his hands with the blade, and she says in the narration, the Starside steel goes right through skin and bone. So it's a magic metal. The protagonist is almost at the platform, and a man named Pagnus Ender from House Ender stops her. He's very, very big. All of House Ender is large because they possibly have god ancestry. Why are they not on Starside? That is a good question. The protagonist and Pagnus, they tussle a little bit. Our protagonist makes it onto the platform though. She meets a girl named Kira and introduces herself. So we finally have her name. Our protagonist is named Aris, I think. I didn't listen to the narration. Did I listen to the audiobook? I listened to it a little bit while I was trying to get through the book because I wanted to get through it quickly. So when I wasn't reading, because I was like taking my dog or something, I listened to the audiobook. I think it's Aris. I hope it's not Aris. I really hope not. I'm assuming it's Aris. So the time runs out and the bird is supposed to do one final call, but everything stops. The crowd goes silent and parts for a man who Aris says looks like a demon. That is like almost directly from Lightlark. It'll come up again though, so I'm sure I'll have another moment to complain about it. So right now I'm gonna keep going. So Harlan Raker is head of the King's Guard, and he is known for showing no mercy. Aris is well acquainted with him because she said that she once begged him for mercy and he gave her none. So 226 people have made it onto the platform, and they now have to fight each other for the coveted 50 spots. And a guard goes to all 226 contestants and marks them with ash. So this is confirming that they're going to participate in the calling. I think I confused myself, but basically, so it's not 50 yet. So there's hundreds of people. They fight to get on the platform, and then whoever's left, then they have to get down to 50. And it has to be 50 people that get through the gate to go to Starside. And then once I guess it reaches the capacity, then the gate closes. Honestly, it is kind of selfish. I don't have qualms about that part, about a character being selfish, because sure. But like when I think about it in hindsight, it is kind of selfish because people do use the magic for good. But obviously, like, the whole system is not like the best kind of system, so it needs to change. But it is kind of selfish if she's planning to kill them, because like, what would be the outcome after? Does everybody just die? It's also a mission. But I think she's okay with that. And I mean, for fairly good reason. So Aris is an orphan from a town called Silverside. Almost no one survived from Aris's town called Silverside because a goddess burned the village down. She is the only person. That's what's almost no one, because she's the only person that survived. Basically, she wants to take revenge on the gods, just in general, because they at least even allowed it to happen. There are a lot of em dashes and ellipses, which is indicative of Sarah J. Maas's impact because she does the same thing. She has her own style, and that's great for her. Like, it works for her. Obviously, she's incredibly successful and some people like her stuff. It's just like, I know this is how publishing works, and it's to like capitalize on whatever people are really liking, whatever's being considered popular at the time. I don't know, it's like a conflict within me because so much of writing is kind of like copying, because you copy people. It's just natural to like find your own style. I mean, a lot of young writers would do that. I did it. A lot of people have done it. I mean, I remember I tried to write basically a copy of a book that I read about these girls that went to like a private school in New York, and it's just like a coming of age story. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember what it was. But like I literally I tried to write something that was the exact same. So it's not abnormal to do that. But at some point you do have to find your own style. And I just, so many romantasy writers, people who have followed behind Sarah J. Maas have tried to copy kind of almost verbatim what she has done. I don't dislike romance. I've read a lot of books where the romance, like there's romance, but it's not the main thing. It's kind of more on the side. It might influence the character, but it's not like the whole plot. And I do feel like in some ways romantasy as a genre, with romance and with fantasy, you have to do two different things. Like you have to like build a world, themes, build character, and then with romance you have to focus on one like couple, two people. So I feel like it's a really delicate balance, and I think it's hard for some people to do both. But so Aris is sitting at a decaying temple reminiscing about her family. The contestants have like a little bit of breather. They can hang out with their family, they can eat dinner, they can go to bed in their own homes before they are loaded onto carts. Stellan is still very adamant and refusing to go along with Aris's idea to participate. He can't stop her, but he's not happy about it. Aris also mentions that she has to wear a lot of layers, and she lives basically like Stormside is a desert. It's like a very minor thing, but I did see somebody say that it's actually not a bad, like she complains that she has to wear layers in the desert, but it's actually normal for many people who live in desert climates to wear layers, because it is actually better, like you're protecting your skin. I mean, we have tons of evidence, because there's like whole cultures that wear layers in the desert. But it's she has to cover her body. She doesn't find it convenient. She's too hot. Aris is walking around town. It's more crowded than normal. Normally it's kind of like a dead, deserted area. Businesses don't run. With the crowd that has gathered for this event, business is booming. Suddenly it has an active nightlife. Aris runs into Kira and also meets Zane, another contestant. Zane is from Helm's Peak, and Kira gets excited. Oh my god, I keep hitting my mic. I always do that. I'm so sorry. Anyway, Kira gets excited that Zane is from Helm's Peak. So she asks him about Helm Hawks and whether they're real. Zane says they were. So Helm Hawks are basically the giant eagles from the Lord of the Rings, except they are hawks. They've left with the war. I don't know if I ever really learned what the war was about, but with the war, Stormside was left without magic, including magical creatures. With that being the case, you would assume that Kira would know that there are no Helmhawks. If they are magical animals, they wouldn't be in Stormside. Aris, Kira, Zane, they have decided to not drink because they're about to go to the culling. Amongst the revelry, Aris notices Raker. Raker has a sword that I cannot stop picturing as the Dragon Slayer. Raker's sword is an ancient sword made with Starside steel. Swords like that can only be earned. In Raker's case, he would have to be killed for somebody to be able to use his sword, like to even lift it. Raker is obviously ridiculously impossible to defeat, even though he's a human. Raker is our big bad, super scary warrior who is said to have defeated 100 people on his own. Not just 100 people, an uprising. So like a revolt against the system, I'm assuming. So he's of the enemy. So when Aris goes home, she finds Stellan in a pool of his blood and the dagger. The dagger's made of Starside steel, and that has been stolen. To make sure that the person who stole the dagger does not claim the dagger, Stellan wants Aris to kill him. Unfortunately, she cannot bring herself to do that, and so he dies, and the dagger no longer belongs to her. Honestly, she doesn't have it anyway. If she was the one to like do the final blow, I don't know, she still wouldn't have access to it. I mean, I guess maybe she could call it, but we're not there yet in the story. So it's the morning. The cart comes to pick up everybody. They're doing the rounds. They get Aris. Obviously, she's in a horrible mood because her adoptive father just died. But so Aris talks about kind of like the name of Starside and how it's a taunt because Stormside is barren. Like they don't get storms, it doesn't rain. And the name is a taunt for me. Where do these names come from? It's kind of the same thing with like Lightlark. So there's another world called Skyshade, and I don't know why. It's not like it's drenched in the color blue. It's not like there's blue, just trees are blue and grass is blue and the water is just so blue. Like there's no reason for it to be named Skyshade. These names kind of indicate that maybe they should mean something, but then they don't. Chapter 3 is the beginning of forcing this idea that men are just so attracted to Aris and that she is just so irresistible to them. It's hot, and for some reason Kira undresses. I don't know how much she undresses, but from what I remember when reading, it sounded like she was like stripping. like it sounded like she was taking off a lot of clothing. I mean, I think maybe in the passage it said like under things or something, which I mean it could literally just be like a tank top, depending on like what image we're trying to conjure, but it just really, from the writing, it just sounded like she was getting naked. But so Kadok, the heir to House Bolter, he makes a comment to Kira that she needs to cover up, but he tells Aris that he wouldn't mind seeing her undress. We're trying to convey that Aris is attractive by people making really gross comments towards her and like basically saying that they want to SA her. Like, I'm not even joking. Like that's really majority of the time when we're like getting cues that I guess she's attractive. I mean, she's conventionally attractive to men because she constantly gets told horrible things by men. I just like, it's a weird choice. Clearly I don't like that, and I don't think that anybody should like that. I think that's really strange. I think that's like not a great way to convey that Aris is physically attractive by having men be inappropriate towards her. I mean, obviously this happens in real life, but it happens to all women regardless of what they look like. Like it could be somebody who's conventionally attractive, somebody who people consider maybe not conventionally attractive, all different types of colors, unfortunately, all different types of ages. Like that's not a good way to show that somebody is physically attractive. Like it's just not. Especially like these insinuations of people wanting to assault her, because it has been said time and time again, sexual assault to the level of it possibly reaching like violence is not because of what somebody looks like. I think it's just not, oftentimes it's not even, it doesn't even have to do with attractiveness. Like there's a reason why, unfortunately, again, like those kinds of things happen like during times of war and stuff, because oftentimes it is to show like dominance. So the Questral, which is the journey, like once they get through the gate and get to Starside, that's the Questral, and that starts on the 25th day of the 5th month, and that is in 2 days. On this little journey to the castle, because right now they're getting to the king's castle to do the culling first. Zane reveals that he's rich. He is heir to House Sterling. They own Helm's Peak, so they own the mountain, and they supply people like Stellan, RIP, with metal to forge weapons. Kadok tries to convince Zane to join his party, but Zane is a very nice boy, like genuinely a very nice boy, and he declines. The cart dropped all 200, multiple carts, drop all 226 of the contestants in the woods. Assuming like this is like a break, no. Plot twist. The culling has begun. This is basically the Hunger Games right now. That's how Lightlark was advertised. This is much more like the Hunger Games. It's a little better than Lightlark so far. Like I will say, I wasn't like immediately pointing out the major errors and stuff, the way that it's really easy to do with Lightlark. So far, this is a book with a plot. Aris fights a loser named Waldron. I wrote in my notes that I'm mentioning him because he will probably come up later, and that is not true because Raker kills him. The challengers, like, it's the culling, but it's more like the pre-culling to the culling, really, when they stop in the forest, because they all have to fight their way to the castle. Once they get to the castle, they are not allowed to try to kill each other. The king, there might be some sort of like magic within the castle, and the king is freaked out about spirits. So he does not want anybody to die in his castle because he doesn't want their ghosts to linger. But in the way that the castle has magic, other great houses also have magic. That brings up a good point now that I'm talking about it, that so it comes out later, but I'm just gonna say it now so that I don't forget. Zane's goal, Zane, the House of Sterling or House Sterling heir, his goal is to get magic because his mountain, Helm's Peak, like, he's worried about resources, so he needs magic. But supposedly the great houses do have magic. So why does he need magic? I don't know. So Aris notes that inside the castle is gilded to utter excess. And then she says that silver is everywhere. You could say maybe that it's very extravagant, but typically gilded is associated with gold. Minor. So everyone is told to pair up and find rooms to make themselves presentable. And Aris and Kira obviously pair up. Aris bathes and we get an explanation. You know, she talked about being covered up and like how annoying it is to be covered up, but now we know why. Her body is covered in silver markings, and silver is, again, something that's like outlawed, like possessing anything silver. I guess silver jewelry, silver, maybe not silver weapons. I guess you can have silver weapons, maybe, but her silver markings could make her, she could become imprisoned. She could end up dead. So that's why she covers herself. The silver markings, they are from her throat to her shoulders, arms, chest, and sides. I'm 84 and gay. So they get to the dinner and the king comes out. He is kind of short, which that doesn't really matter, but he also appears very young, but he's supposedly like several hundred years old. He just appears young because of the magic that he hoards. So because of this and like the amount of magic that he hoards, despite obviously, I mean, he doesn't have to participate in the Questral, he probably uses some of the magic that people bring back. Like he takes a portion of that. I forgot to mention that Harlan Raker, and honestly, I think I just willingly forget this all the time. It's kind of like how I willingly forget that Grimm and Lightlark constantly wears a cape, but Harlan Raker always wears a mask, and I have finished the book, so I don't know why. I mean, I guess I could make an inference as to why, but it's not really clear why he wears masks. It's not clear why he wears a mask, but it completely covers his face. Yeah, he wears a mask and a hood, and despite being in front of the king, he doesn't take it off, nor is he asked to take it off. So he's intimidating. From this, we can gather possibly that he's intimidating to even the king. Aris then thinks that maybe Raker is going to Starside for magic to get some for the king so that he can make the turn, which is basically becoming immortal. King makes a little speech. He offers weapons for the contestants, but they have to swear to give him a portion. No, not a portion, half. They have to swear to give him half of they all get a cup. 1 cup of magic. I think like a goblet, maybe a cup. I don't know, but they have to give half of it to the king. Aris refuses to agree to this. I mean, he does offer it, and her refusing kind of offends him, but he gets over it because, I mean, you offered, like, they don't have to do it. After dinner, Kira falls asleep. Aris takes a walk, and she ends up running into Raker. Raker is very big. Aris is teeny tiny. So Raker says, interesting, you aren't pissing yourself yet. Ooh, so scary. They exchange words. None of them are compelling or interesting. He threatens her. She challenges him. That's it. And we're going to get a lot of that. Aris goes to sleep, but she is woken up by the watchman who says they need to be outside in 10 minutes. I don't know really like how long she slept, but it's like I think it's like very early morning and they have to go. So the culling begins. It's violent. There are 150 left of the original 226. So 100 people have to die, of course, to leave only 50. The culling is like a maze, basically. They're now competing to get to Starside. Aris follows Raker very closely. He can't see her, but he's like hacking through people with his sword, and she just sticks close to him. He's like mowing people down. Eventually he notices that she's there, but he doesn't care because he just assumes that she'll probably end up dying anyway. But so they exit the maze, and then Aris is face to face with Pagnus Ender, who appeared in the first chapter. He's a very big man, again, supposed to be a descendant of the gods. I thought descendants of the gods were on Starside, but I mean, maybe it's just a rumor. Aris runs away from him into a forest, and in this forest there are like swords suspended in the trees, and people are trying to get them because they're all made of silver. Why hasn't the king like taken all of those? So House Ender, so it's Pagnus Ender, and Kadok, their houses are working together. Kadok does not want Pagnus to kill Aris because he basically offers to let her live so that she can service his needs while they are in Starside. He's a pervert. Another like Sarah J. Maas thing where the worst people who are evil are sexual predators. And it's like, sexual predators are terrible, but there are also really bad people who are not just sexual predators. Some people are just bad without also being perverted. So there's like different flavors of evil. Kadok tries to kill Aris. She ends up being able to call a sword to her, like from underground somewhere, and it ends up being a sword of Starside steel. Like I mentioned earlier, I did bring this up a little bit earlier, like, but we hadn't gotten there yet, so I don't know what the point of was, or what the point, okay. So at the beginning, Stellan dies, right? In the beginning. We're still in the beginning, technically. It's only chapter 7. But so Stellan dies by a Starside steel dagger. And then he tells Aris to kill him so that she can claim it. But this person, whoever stole the dagger, which it's Kadok, but whoever stole the dagger, we don't know who they are in that point. It's like chapter 3 that this happens. So he's gone, the thief of the dagger. Like, now that I finished the book and I know that you can call weapons, which is not necessarily easy to do, it actually takes Aris some time to even really figure out how to like actually do that once she has the sword, even though she did it at first in the beginning to get it. It's just like, I don't know, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. The king did it earlier. The king called a sword from the wall when he was introducing all of his weapons to everybody and showing them off and like, saying that they can take them. He called a sword to him. Aris called it sword magic. You'd have to have magic, right? So mortals don't have magic. How would she call a sword to her if she doesn't have magic in Stormside? But then like later in the book, she has to like have somebody teach her how to call her sword that she already called to her. If I was a developmental editor, I would just put like a ton of question marks. This sword is Starside steel. So now Aris is a target. People want to kill her so that they can claim her sword. Thankfully, a bunch of creatures come out to distract everyone, and they're oryx. Everyone's trying to escape from the oryx. It's like a herd of them. Aris is able to not be trampled. Unfortunately, some people do die. Aris can see the gates. Like, she gets past the oryx. There's monsters, like giants, that are in the way now, like between her and this gate, between everybody else and this gate. The description is actually quite literally nothing. We don't know what they look like. Aris kills one of them. She gets the guts on her. Aris is able to see them up close, and she notices that they cannot see, but they can smell. There's an identical monster like this in Skyshade. It can see, but it can't see. It's blind. But it didn't have a face, actually. It was like a giant grasshopper that did not have a face and supposedly could smell. But so this is just same type of monster, just a giant, basically. Aris is able to get past the monsters. She's near the gate. There are 3 spots left. Kira gets through. Zane is next. So there's 1 spot left. One of Kadok's friends is about to take the spot, but Zane kicks him off the bridge and then helps Aris into the gate. So now we're on Starside. So it's beautiful. It's full of magic. The gates close completely, and everyone now has 50 days until the gates open again. They're down to 49 contestants because one of the enders is put out of their misery, essentially. She was injured by one of the giants. So Aris, Kira, and Zane team up. What's helpful is that Zane has a map. It's a rough map. It is missing a lot of like important information, but it'll lead them to the gods, the land of the gods, which is the ultimate end goal. Aris, Kira, and Zane are bathing. I should have looked up how many times the word bathing or bath comes up because they do be bathing a lot. I mean, I'm all for hygiene, but there's a lot of baths in this. They meet an immortal named Palos. He's a scholar and he offers them a place to stay for the night because nighttime is dangerous. He wants to study them. It's been, you know, I guess it's every, I forget already how many years it takes for the gates to open. Okay, every 50 years. So every 50 years, the land of the immortals, Starside, they get mortals. Palos is an immortal. I don't know why he wouldn't be alive to have witnessed mortals come through before. Like, I don't know why he wants to study these people so bad. Like, if you had gotten at least one human and studied them, then, I mean, shouldn't that be enough? But anyway, so Aris has questions. She goes into the scholars' library and she overhears Palos talking with other scholars, talking about how they want to, like, open them up and examine them. So Aris obviously is like, nope. Aris ends up causing chaos. She steals a map. Aris, Kira, Zane, they're able to escape. Though as they're escaping, they do come across the head scholar named Ellis. He lets Aris go through because of the silver markings on her body. There's sort of a description for what it's called, her silver markings, but like I still don't know why they're important. I'm sure those will come up later. Aris now has damn. Aris now has a map of, I mean, I guess like the entirety of Starside, and there is apparently a place where you can claim a creature, like a magical creature, and this would be important to them or for them because they can just ride this creature onto the land of the gods rather than having to traverse like this very dangerous landscape. Aris, I understand that she's been through very hard times. Every time her inner monologue comes around, it's literally, and she says this, I'm paraphrasing, but she basically says this: I don't want Zane to take the map from me, like everything I've ever cared about. You're that attached to the map already. Like, the map is not a special map. There's no like magic. It's useful. It's a useful tool. The angst can be a little frustrating at times. Aris, Kira, and Zane now need to find a village to stay for the night because, so it's daytime now, but nighttime is a very dangerous time. The trio ends up going across a road that is barely used, and that's for good reason. There are immortals who are there to collect a face for the god of travels, and I think the god of travels, if I remember correctly, I think this is the god or goddess who like tore up and completely burned down Aris's village. But so they're collecting a face. I don't really know why, to be honest, but they're collecting faces. So Zane tells Aris to throw her sword because her sword is now a magic special Starside steel sword. Raker can throw his like a boomerang. It just like he can recall it like Thor or like Kratos in God of War. I do find it really interesting that she was able to call it in the beginning, but now she can't just like throw it and call it back to her. So the immortals, because they are just enhanced individuals in general, they can hear everything that the trio is saying. One of them moves forward and they inspect the sword. The immortal tries to take it, but she can't. So the immortals start fighting over the sword. Like, I guess they're fighting each other over the sword. And then one of them starts interrogating Aris about, like, where did you find it? Where exactly did you find it? Zane is able to kill the immortal who has cornered Aris. He then takes the face of one of the immortals, which is their payment for passage. Do they really need payment for passage? Was that really important? And what is the face for? What'd you do with the face? I don't know. They make it to a village called Westward. It is surrounded by a moat, and the gatekeeper of the village is about to pull the gate up, but he lets them in when they show the face of the immortals. We now know that not all of the immortals are homicidal maniacs, which is good to know. The gatekeeper of the village takes the trio to an immortal named Zara, is what I'm assuming, because it's Xara. Zara owns a tavern, and she is eager to feed the trio and give them rest, which is nice. Aris sleeps pretty well. She does have nightmares, but it's pretty standard for her. But this is the first time that she has slept deeply in a while. She runs into Raker at the end. Quite literally, she bumps into him and she almost falls down the stairs. Then he threatens her with death and then he leaves. My microphone keeps scaring me that it's like not working anymore, but I think it is. I don't know. Why do you always come in here? Like you just happen to know that I'm recording. My dog is back in here again. What about me doing this is so intriguing to you? Zara seems to be genuinely very nice and does help the trio figure out what path is good to take for them. She does warn them of what not to do, where to go, or where not to go. She explains the beast tree and how it works. So what they have to do is they have to jump off of it, and a creature has to decide if they're like worthy, I guess, or if they connect. So they choose their person and save them from dying, basically. If a creature does not choose you, then you just fall to your death. Diana, what on earth are you doing? Zara doesn't have any employees. The inn runs on magic. It was a gift to Zara, who is very respected, so nobody fights in her tavern. Like when they walk in, they have to leave their weapons at the door, and they respect that decision. Aris, I don't know how Aris actually concluded this, but she concludes that Zara is a knight, and there's a sword embedded in her skin. As a kind of like tattoo. So Zara was a knight. She's officially retired as a tavern keeper. She lends Aris, Kira, and Zane a boat. So she explains to them finally why night is so dangerous. And it's so dangerous because the god of death has demons that roam the night. This whole thing just started recently. So the gods are not necessarily well liked on Starside. It of course depends on the person, but Zara is not a fan and just tells the trio to hopefully basically never come across a god. Admittedly, I do find Aris, Kira, and Zane enjoyable together. Like I did genuinely like them together. They get along really well. They're pretty likable characters. Like there's not anything that's so far, like there was nothing that was annoying about them. But so it starts to storm. The boat is supposed to magically not flip over, but that doesn't mean that it's completely smooth sailing. Kira's sword gets lost in the water and she decides to go after it. Aris and Zane are able to get both Kira and the sword back into the boat, but Kira hurt herself very badly and she's basically bleeding out. Aris has Kira talk about her sister, I guess to not think about the pain, I suppose. To be honest, even though I said I do like these characters so far, I don't think negatively of them. Like I don't hate them so far. I still didn't feel anything. So like in this part, it's supposed to be emotional, but we kind of just started getting used to them as like a friend group. It's very early. By the way, this is chapter 11, and I just feel nothing. They make it to their destination. Kira can barely walk. Because of this injury being so bad, she's going to hold the other two back, and she basically gets herself back into the boat where it will automatically sail back to Zara. Yeah. And just like that, Kira is no longer in the book. I've talked about this with Lightlark that I really wished and hoped that Isla would have a female friend, really any friend, but it would be nice for her to have a female friend. And I thought we were gonna like actually get some friendships in this book. Nope. So even though Kira is going back to Zara, Eris does promise that she is going to get magic and will share it with her so that Kira can give it to her sister. Eris and Zane get to the Beast Tree. Kadok's party is there as well. Many are failing, which means that they're dying, so they're jumping and nothing is coming to get them. I don't really know how big this tree is. It is big enough that there's a staircase and people are able to walk up the staircase so that they can get to the top. I do struggle with being able to see what Alex Aster is trying to have me see. What a reader envisions versus what an author envisions, it's not the same thing, like what we're imagining, because the author has obviously very specific things that they're thinking of. We do all interpret things differently, but the writing is supposed to help build a picture, and it's not easy for me to do that with this world or with Lightlark. There's so many repeat locations, and I will get there. So anyway, Eris and Zane, of course, get to the top of the tree. He does not have his axe because he almost fell out of the tree. In order to help Eris pull him back up, because remember, he's a very big person and she's teeny tiny. I actually don't even know how she would have helped him up, but whatever. So he dropped his axe so that she could help him. So when they get to the top, they see dragons, and then Zane falls to his knees because we need that melodrama, because he sees that there are Helmhawks. There's a couple sharing a moment together, and call me callous, call me heartless, but there's something kind of funny about these people jumping willingly, might I add. So just in hope that they would find a creature to save them, because it's literally 50-50. Either they live or they don't. Like, they can't take a boat. Like, they were just in a boat. Can they not take a boat? Are there no carriages? Like, I don't know. So the guy from the couple does make it onto a dragon, but one of Kadok's friends kills this guy with an arrow and then steals the dragon. How and why? So these animals are choosing people to be their riders, like these dragons. I don't know how that works, but okay. Zane goes to take care of the guy that is shooting people. He leaves Eris on her own. Pagnus Ender, the man with the worst name in the world, aside from Walden, aside from Walden, Xaden Ryerson, and Raker, shows up, and he has his sights set on Eris. Kadok also shows up. Eris has no other option but to jump. So at this point, for her, it's really either die from these guys or die from jumping off of the tree. And she chooses to jump off of the tree, but instead of dying, she is caught by a dragon. Silver Dragon claims Eris. Now, if you don't remember, at the beginning, when we were talking about Stormside a little bit, when we were in Stormside and like the king's rules for keeping things that are silver, keeping in particular silver beasts, it was said that so silver animals are like, I think she said they're like hard to control or hard to tame or something in the beginning. So that would have you believe that silver animals are powerful. No, this dragon, so she's not in this book very much either, but she doesn't do anything of note aside from she saves Eris from falling and dying. What else does she do? She helps Eris train a little bit with her sword, and she has to try and not get eaten by Kadok's dragon. So Kadok gets a dragon, a really, really big dragon who would eat Eris's. Eris lets her dragon go because the only reason why Kadok's dragon, or why Kadok would even, the name Kadok is fucking me up, and the pronunciation, like my mouth is just, anyway, so Kadok, his dragon, he's only going to sick his dragon on Eris's dragon because he wants her sword. So Eris lets her dragon go because they're just after her. So in that way, the dragon is safe. So literally, that's chapter 13. She gets a dragon and then the dragon is gone. To hide from Kadok and his people, Eris hides in a cave, and guess who's in the cave? Harlan Raker. So Kira is gone, Zane is gone, and now we have Harlan. And she's gonna be with him the whole time. We had, what, 12 chapters pretty much of a friend group, but not even that because Aris was not with them the whole start from the beginning. I just don't know why we're so like opposed to giving our protagonists like some allies, some friends, like nothing. So I don't know why Raker is such a big baby man. He tells Aris to leave. You need to leave! He says that she needs to leave or he's going to make her leave. He tries to scare her, but it doesn't work. So he packs his stuff and leaves on his own. So obviously he's not that scary. Aris is now without friends. She's without a dragon. Aris wants Raker to pair up with her, and they do. Of course they do. Aris calls Raker a demon. She says this twice. This is also something, again, that Isla called grim. So we're just, like, plagiarizing ourselves. Raker agrees only because, I almost said Isla. Aris has a map, the full map of Starside, so that's why Raker pairs up with her. Of course, he could just, take it from her. But she throws it off of the mountain and it burns up because Cadoc's dragon was like going through the woods and burning everything to try and, I guess, flush Aris out. But Aris has memorized the entire map. So Raker now has to work with her. Kira and Zane were disposed of very quickly so that we could get Aris and Raker together. And that forces them, of course, to eventually lead up to 13 pages of sex. I would have liked to see the trio do more things together, and I don't really see why they couldn't pair up as a quartet, like as a group. It made me think about The Lord of the Rings again and The Fellowship. I haven't even read The Fellowship in a really long time, but like when they pair off, it makes sense, but each pair ends up doing something of significance. Like, I don't even know what Zane did this whole entire time. I know what Kira did, but I don't know what Zane did the whole time. We just meet him again at like the end, like in passing. It's just, why even have Kira and Zane if they contributed so little? Like, you could have taken them out, honestly, completely, and found a way for Aris to do a lot of the things that she did on her own. But I feel like if you wanted Aris and Raker to pair up with each other, I feel like you could have still had these other people because like they can get their alone time later at some point, and they do. Like, it's not like they couldn't find a room off to do their own thing. Like, I don't know. But we have to keep them together and like isolated as a pair so that they're forced to talk about things, which they barely do, to be quite honest. Like, they barely do that anyway. But so Aris and Raker settle in for the night. Raker falls asleep and Aris is awake and she sees her sister. Obviously, it's a monster. She's been told multiple times to be wary of the nighttime. They're in a completely new world, completely different from her own world, and she just trusts that this is her sister, who she knows died in a fire a very long time ago, but she's like, this is a land full of magic, maybe it's a ghost. It's not. So now she and Raker have to run. Raker is headed towards the water, and Eris pieces together from the village of Westwer being surrounded by a moat, and also the boat that Zara offered that the demons cannot cross water. They end up falling in the water. Why did they fall into the water? Oh, they had to like jump off. Okay, yeah. They got into the water. Eris almost dies. She cannot swim, but Raker saves her. And not too much on her not being able to swim because I get it. Because I can't swim either. Although, to be honest, if I was doing something like this, like if I knew that I was going for like a horrible death match thing to try and get some magic for myself, well, no, she's not trying to get magic. She's trying to kill the gods, but whatever. If I knew I was doing this, I would learn how to swim. I would. So Raker is honestly a pain in my ass, but understandably irritated at this point. He was doing fine without Eris, and now she's there, and within a few hours of her joining him, he was almost killed. So I would be annoyed too. They make it onto an island and they stay there for the night. The demons are just like around them, just waiting for them, but by the morning they're gone. So it's the next day and it is now safe to leave the island. Even though she can't swim, he tells her she needs to figure out how to get off the island on her own, and he's not going to help her. He's very rude. It's hard to read. I know some people like this book. Dark romance is very popular for a reason, and there's a lot of protagonists who their male lead or male love interest is awful to them, and people enjoy that. So I mean, if you like it, I love it. He's really rude to her, and if somebody was just rude to me from the jump, I don't know if I could possibly develop feelings for said person. So Eris breaks off a piece of bark from a tree, and she uses that to keep herself afloat. Eventually, they come to an area with rushing water, I suppose. I can't visualize this in my head, but they settle on the bank somewhere. The way they get there, I just can't. I don't know how they got there. Sometimes I just have to guess. Like, it's how characters get from point A to point B sometimes. I don't know. You don't always have to like it can be tedious to say like character walked from one room to another room, like it can be tedious, but sometimes you do have to show movement in a way so that it makes sense because there's not like a scene break. They're just in the ocean swimming away, I think in an ocean, swimming away from the island, and then they happen upon a riverbank, I guess. I had to move my plant because I don't think it liked being here. It just doesn't fare well. So now I moved my thing that I got from Michael's. It was like $12 because it was on sale. Michael's is amazing, by the way. I love Michael's so much. So whatever happens, whatever. I don't know. Aris and Raker end up on a riverbank somewhere. What is important and what I want to focus on and talk about is the most glorious thing I have ever read in my entire life. So Aris says, figuring it out means me making camp at the edge of the river, hoping my proximity to the water will keep me safe. A moment later, I hear a sharp click, followed by a roaring. I turn to see Raker has made a fire in less than a minute. It was a skill I taught myself before coming to the Centennial. That was my mom in the background. She laughed, not because she knows I'm doing this, but it's very fitting. Now, how did that get there? It's a word from a completely different book series. I mean, there's just no rhyme or reason to confuse the two, right? Eris gets attacked in the middle of the night, not Raker, I guess. So he just stays asleep. I don't know why he was not targeted. Again, I don't even really know if they're like on the same side of the bank. Like, I don't know. He's just sitting there, laying there, and then she's being attacked. I don't know how this is happening, but it is happening. Either way, he doesn't help her. And the next morning, he just gets up and leaves. Like, he's gonna leave her. And he cannot like her, sure, fine, but you agreed to work with her. You could have just said no. It's chapter 16, and Eris is beginning to connect with an elk, but Raker kills it and she calls him a monster. I'm going to give you just a taste of the self-loathing that you will be treated to if you decide to read this book, because it happens frequently. Eris says, monster. That's the only thing I can think of as I finally make my way to the waterfall. The sun is setting. My hands are still shaking. The elk's eyes are in my head. It was looking at me. I distracted it. I got it killed. Just like everything else in my life. I'm in love with an emo girl. Oh, here's another good one. Eris says, the mountains are endless. We climb them all, one after the other, until my legs go numb. Just when I think my body has reached its limits, those limits expand. It's like my tears, I think. Just when I think I've cried enough for several lifetimes, they prove me wrong. And along with some inspiration, clearly from Sarah J. Maas, we also clearly have inspiration from Rebecca Yarros. So in Fourth Wing, so far, I think like each book, at least the first one, there's like fuck him or fuck this. So that's in this book. It's like staccato, like fuck period this period, or fuck period him period literature. Aris and Raker are arguing. At this point, I was wondering, how were we going to get them together? Like, what is going to be the point where you start seeing them like fall for each other? There, like I said, there are 13 pages of a sex scene. I think it's like actually 14. So that happens, but I don't recall when they ever really like connected. I don't believe that sex needs to be like super important and life-changing. I'd support whatever people want to do as long as it's, again, consensual and safe. if it's just like a friends with benefits thing, if it's like a hate situation, but again, still safe and consensual, fine, perfectly fine. So I don't care that the characters don't like really, I don't know, we're gonna get there, but I don't care that the characters are not like super in love, even though this is supposed to be enemies to lovers. That's literally the title of the book. Is it says, let me see if I can find it again. I guess I don't have it, but it's like literally went on the Kindle. It said Starside and enemies to lovers, like colon, and enemies to lovers romance. And I guess they're in love. I guess at some point we're supposed to believe that they're in love. He's rude to her. He's like the worst, actually. And she's also annoying. I find her annoying as well. I mean, I guess I can see what the author is trying to do. So Aris is supposed to come across as cold and ruthless. I think that she's supposed to come across that way, but deep down she's actually caring. However, I mean, because I was going there, I was trying to find pictures because I've been editing this video. As I was doing that, I was like coming across Alex Aster videos and her like Instagram and social media, whatever. I also just found like written interviews. The way Aris is portrayed, she's supposed to be like ruthless and badass and stuff. So like, is she cold and calculating and aggressive and like this strong warrior person, like pretending to be that way? Like, is she actually that, or is she pretending to be that way? Because like at this point, I mean, she's not pretending at all. She was in the beginning a little bit like, I'm gonna kill the gods and blah blah blah, and then now an elk got killed and she's really sad about it. However, just before this, Raker killed a bunch, like he killed fish because he, on the river bank that they were at, that I have no idea like the positioning actually of anything. Like I don't know where they were like when they left the island and got to this river bank. He killed fish. She felt nothing regarding that. So I guess she does have a bias of like sea or water creatures versus land animals. So the elk being killed was a huge crossing of the line for her. I mean, she's not a vegan, she's not a vegetarian. What do you call it? She forages. So she does eat like nuts and mushrooms and berries. There's never been an indication that she does not eat meat. So I don't know why the elk being killed is such an awful thing for her. It's like, I know it's like small things, but when you actually read it, you just start like to question like why? Like why exactly does she have such a strong reaction to the elk being killed? If it was Isla, it would make sense because Isla is a flower child. She's missing Mother Nature. They're in the cave, or they're in a cave. Again, for all I know, it could be the same cave. I don't know. It looks the same in my brain each time. But so Raker goes to sleep and Aris uses this opportunity to bathe. And as she is bathing, a demon asks her to, it appears, and it asks her to come to him to join the stolen brides. Whatever that means. As they're traveling, as they continue to travel, Raker continues to hunt, and Aris continues to be like, he has enough to eat. We have mushrooms and berries. Like, again, he stabbed a fish in the river to cook it, and she had no problem with that. So, I don't know. Aris is somewhere. Again, descriptions are not the greatest, but she hears Raker's sword, and she's determined to save another creature. Like, again, she's Miss Captain Save-A-Ho, Save-A-Land-Ho. Land-Ho! That was a terrible joke. But when she finds Raker, she realizes that he's training. So that's why she heard his sword. Oh, no, actually, he's cutting that. I literally wrote, she realizes he is training dash no. Actually, he's chopping down trees. Why is he chopping down trees? We got Paul Bunyan over here. So Raker notices Aris watching him. He insults her and then says she'll be dead soon. So I know this is enemies to lovers, but this is excessive, I feel like. No? So I mentioned previously that Aris does have nightmares and she screams in her sleep. That is frightening and completely and totally alarming. But this also is a liability because she is alerting these monsters like demons that are lurking the night. She's alerting them to them. She's determined to not sleep, which doesn't make any sense. But Aris and Raker, I think it's like they're at like they had a little bonfire in the cave. I don't know. But they bond over a little. No, okay, it's not a bonfire. I think I just made that up in my brain. I think that was what I was trying to imagine. I was trying to imagine something. I was just trying to see a picture of something. They bond over mushrooms and berries that she has foraged because where they are currently, where they have gotten to on their journey, the land is like poisoned and corrupted, like the animals, the plants. So they have to eat what she has saved from previous non-corrupted land. It's a slightly more positive interaction, but it's over very quickly. There's a lot of walking and a lot of camping. Raker goes off on his own a lot, and we can just assume he's training, i.e. chopping down trees. Aris starts to train herself as well when he's gone, so she's training on her own. So at one point, as she's training, Raker's gone, an immortal comes up to her. She must be out in the woods somewhere, I don't know. But it's attracted, whatever, the immortal is attracted by Aris' sword and says, Lordship will love it. And then he knocks her out. So I wish I could like reference the book. I should have taken a screenshot of this. Or maybe not. Maybe it's good that I didn't. There's comments from the immortal that Aris hears that he says something about, like he's talking to other people and says something about playing with her. And it kind of sounded like we're implying SA, like Aris was assaulted while she was out, like maybe touching or something. I don't know. That's what I interpreted from it. It's again another implication that they find her attractive in a way. It's very weird. It's very, very weird. So Aris is able to fight the immortals. She has mastered a stance that she has been practicing for a few hours. I don't know what the stance is. Don't know. You can pick one of the ones from Avatar. So she battles multiple immortals at once. Aris does well for a while on her own, but she is in a bind, and this is when Raker comes to save her and save the day. It's chapter 19 now. The immortal that knocked Aris out wanted to kill her for the sword. Also himself had a magic sword. Aris wants to know how that's possible. This brings up, so I put something in my notes that I thought we were clear that Starside has magic, so even if the immortals are not gods, they have magic. I don't know why Aris is confused that the immortals, or that the immortal that knocked her out would have like a magic sword. So, but Raker calls whatever the guy had a god sword, which like why would he want Aris' sword if he had a magic sword anyway? But so god swords have unmatched power and they glow. Raker takes this moment to tell Aris that he thinks that she's not good at sword fighting. And so he decides to teach her, finally. She had asked him before, so now he wants to teach her. Aris and Raker sleep on a bridge for the night. Now, again, demons are put off by water for whatever reason, and doing anything surrounded by water, it keeps them safe. I don't understand exactly how a bridge keeps them safe because there is land on both sides, and a bridge specifically connects two pieces of land together. So that's not necessarily deterring demons because they can come from the land and just walk onto the bridge. Like a bridge is specifically so you don't have to step in water. I guess if they get into a fight, there's a fear that they could be pushed into the water. I mean, they're sleeping, so you could literally just like attack them as they're sleeping. But so Aris asks Raker what he's afraid of. I didn't know that we were at that point yet where we could like start having conversations like that, but I guess Aris feels like we are. And so he doesn't really answer. He doesn't really talk at all, but she tells him what she's afraid of or what she used to be afraid of. She used to be afraid of night. She says she might start liking the night because of Starside. And I'm like, why? They could constantly be killed because there's just demons everywhere at night. They've been attacked multiple times at night. Why do you like the nighttime now because of Starside? I don't know. It's weird. But okay. She starts trying to be super insightful and trying to get him to like open up. He tells her to stop talking. So it is chapter 20 and two children steal from Aris. I think they're just like in a forest and they take, I don't even know what from her, but she chases after them and run into the boy's mother, who is seems to be quite kind. I mean, she's kind throughout this whole chapter and doesn't do anything weird or maniacal. She offers Raker and Aris a place to stay for the night. As they're walking, the two little boys, they bother Raker. He ignores them. There's nothing that he's doing that makes him endearing. Like, I thought at least maybe he would like engage with the kids a little bit. No. But so Aris asks the mother questions to quell her curiosity about certain things, which is a little invasive if you ask me. But she asks if the children are common, or if children in general are common for immortals. They are not. And then when they get to the village, there's a forest called Bone Woods and it's blocked by mist. So Eris asks about that. It's basically a super scary forest and it's creeping closer and closer decade by decade. I don't actually really know why that even matters. Like, in hindsight, going back to the notes, thinking about how we got to the end, I don't know why it matters. Like, if it keeps getting closer and closer, like, are y'all gonna die? Like, what's the concern? So they're introduced to another tavern. The woman slash mother, first she takes them to her home. She drops the boys off. Eris is now in the tavern in her own room. Obviously, her and Raker have separate rooms, and she can hear other people, and she says this. I stare up at the ceiling. The walls are thin. I hear everything, from moving around to people relieving themselves to ... guests very aggressively enjoying themselves. For some reason, that makes me think of Raker. I wonder what he's doing in his room. Is it possible he's found someone in this town? I think about the way he cut those trees down, how it released some of his frustration. Does he need a release in another way? What the fuck, Eris? That's a really weird thought. It's a really weird thought. And then keep in mind, it doesn't matter necessarily. Like, we don't necessarily need to see people's faces to know if they're attractive, because unfortunately, I find Pyramid Head from Silent Hill attractive, and it just is what it is. But it's just like, we haven't seen Raker's face. I think she's seen his figure. He's tall. They don't get along though, and he's super rude. So I don't know why her brain is like, I wonder if he needs company. Does he need my help with anything? Girl, no. Stand up. After bathing and eating, Eris gets hungry again, which, same, and goes downstairs to the bar. There are mortals there who start making gross comments, again, about Eris and her looks. I find it super fascinating, strange, that writers like Alex Aster, I just saw a lightning strike right over there. That's crazy. But writers like Alex Aster and Sarah J. Maas, it's like oftentimes some of the worst people in their books are sexual predators. Most women, if not all women, have some sort of story of sexual assault or violence. The way it gets put in these books, it's not on a level that's like actually commenting on anything. In this book, it keeps happening to Eris over and over again, just to assert the fact that she's attractive. There's no commentary on like the society of Starside or like how men treat women in this world. In this scene, one of the immortals says, humans are so ugly, so blemished, but you're one of the prettier ones. Why? Why are we doing this? I hate it so much. So the immortal continues to ogle Eris, and then he sets his eyes on her sword, and her sword is just going to be the main attraction. Who cares about Eris and her tickled bitties despite being underfed somehow? So Eris threatens the immortal who made the disgusting comment towards her, but she can tell that she has irritated him with the comment that she has made. So she leaves for the house of the woman, the mother of the two boys. And she's like, this feels like home. Oh, it's this ... this feels like home. Ellipses, that's a lot of ellipses. That's a lot. I give praise where praise might be owed in some form. So I can at least appreciate that Aster is trying to make the world feel more populated, because Lightlark, it felt so empty. In Starside, we at least have had 2 villages so far, and there's some evidence of life in some way. We have met other people who exist in this world who are not necessarily like main characters, not really necessarily side characters either. Like, this woman does not get a name, so she's just evidence of life in Starside outside of weird, creepy murderous immortals. This woman tells Aris exactly what is in the Bone Woods. It's monsters, more monsters, of course. And she gives Aris a book to learn about the beasts in Starside. After a nice evening with the lady, Aris goes back to the tavern, and she hears people talking to each other about killing someone and taking a sword, which would obviously be her. I am confused about the abilities of the immortals, and does everyone have like the same sort of condition? In general, the elves from The Lord of the Rings are pretty like consistently, like they have similar conditions. Well, most of them are really tall, quite durable. If you tossed an elf like across the room or something, like majority of elves would probably be fine. So, like in general, they're in good condition. Like they have a good physical condition. So previously, like when Eris, Kira, and Zane fought the Immortals for the first time, when they first got into Starside, they moved like in a blur and they were just, I don't know, that was my impression of how it was described. But here, Eris runs away from them. Here, she's under the influence of a sleep elixir, so she was able to sleep completely without nightmares. The immortals are having a hard time catching her. But Eris excuses that by saying they're too hungover. Their alcohol takes them down to where they're on the same level of a drowsy human being. Okay. So Eris runs and runs until she's at the Bone Woods, and then guess where she goes? Into the Bone Woods, alone. In the woods, Eris encounters a creature that only speaks to her telepathically. She calls him a man, but honestly, the way that he's described, it's not humanoid really at all. So he's as tall as the trees in the forest. I'm not really sure how tall the trees are. They could be 6 feet, they could be 10 feet, they could be even taller. He has fangs curling out of his mouth, fingers that are made of curved blades, and somewhat empty eye sockets aside from dancing silver flecks is how he's described. So I'm like imagining like those things, what are they called from it? Like Pennywise, or like the deadlights. That's what I'm imagining. But so this creature is the gardener. At least that's what he calls himself. And the bone woods are his woods. He can see everything. Like he's in Eris's head, and he can even see what she's planning and what her purpose is in the Questral and in Starside. And so he knows that she wants to kill the gods, and that intrigues him. So the gardener agrees to let Eris go only if she gives him a memory. She does, and he calls her Eris Godslayer. I kind of thought that Eris would be able to just walk out, but as soon as the gardener leaves, she gets attacked by what are called saber wolves. So she knows what these things are because of the bestiary that she was given, and she memorized it because apparently she has freaking photographic memory and can remember maps, just like can recall it because she can close her eyes and just recall it. She doesn't do that, but that's just how I'm imagining. She can close her eyes and recall the map vividly, and she also, after a few hours and a night with the bestiary, she knows all these things about the different monsters, so that's great. The forest attacks all of a sudden as if the gardener was the only thing keeping it away, like everything away from her. Eris falls at some point and her arm is dislocated, but Raker comes to save the day. Because her body is so messed up, he holds her to his chest and then fights like that. And I just have this terribly funny image of Eris just hanging like a rag doll as Raker fights. But Aris and Raker argue a little bit again, and she's very badly hurt and also poisoned by one of the monsters when it bit her. The mom, so the mother, who helped Aris and Raker, the second lady, did not have a name, which that's okay. Just I don't know what her name is, so I'm just calling her Mother. She gave Eris some vials to collect from monsters. So while some monsters are poisonous, they can also, like, at the same time contain their antidote within their bodies, and Eris is able to heal the poison from herself by just like taking, I think it's like saliva or something from this dead monster that poisoned her. But her arm is still dislocated, so Raker has to put it back in its socket, and that Genuinely sounds so horrible. So once they make it through the mist, they get to a forest with trees like giants. Aris is able to bathe. There's a lot of that. Walking, camping, go to sleep, possibly get attacked, walking, camping, go to sleep, bathe.
Bus, club, another club, plane, next place, no sleep, no fear.
Get covered in dirt and guts, bathe again. There's time to breathe sometimes, like so very little time to breathe, but mostly it's just this constant attacks, and it gives the illusion that there's something happening. But if you actually were to take away all of these attacks, there would be a much shorter story, and probably a lot would not be happening. There's a lot of books that have a lot of action that still have moments and chapters where it's not that the characters aren't doing anything, but they might just like have a moment of reprieve where they're, I don't want to say eating, because they do this a lot. They eat, they bathe, they like go to sleep. I don't know. They try to find water. Like it's just, I know it's just, they're trying to survive as well, but like we get it. Like I know that. So I don't need to constantly be told that that's what they're doing. But a lot of these attacks also, they amount to nothing. Like there's nothing that the characters get out of it. Aris doesn't necessarily learn anything. I mean, clearly she doesn't, because she's constantly in danger. Aris is bathing and she spots a really pretty glowing horse that flies away. And then there's a magical bear that appears and it wants to kill her. She runs away from it, but an immortal kills it. And the immortal is a hunter. And so these hunters, it's a very specific job where they collect things from monsters and they give it to people like the woman, the mother who helped Aris and Raker. The bear that chases Aris only eats magic, so it chased her because of the sword that she has. The hunter also has a dragon, and Aris asks for a ride, but he does not want them on his dragon, which is fair. But he offers to help them find a sky horse, which is the glowing horse that Aris had seen earlier. The sky horse, I thought that he was going to help them try and find one so that they can ride it to the land of the gods, but actually it's just to help them get out of the woods a little quicker. Aris decides to ask about Vander Evren. This is the person that Stellan told her to seek out once she is in Starside. That curiosity, so she's curious about Vander Evren, and she says that curiosity only grows as the hunter pales. His easygoing smile fades completely. How do you know that name? I'm not going to tell him about Stellan. I'm not going to answer him at all. But I am going to wonder why a man who just single-handedly took down a beast as large as these trees, who hunts monsters for a living, is afraid of a name. I say as much, and the hunter shakes his head. Some heirs spill more blood than these beasts. Vander Everen is one of them. Do not call upon him unless you want to be next in his long line of deaths. He's an heir. Why would Stellan have known the name of a lord of Starside, and why would he tell me to find someone that's dangerous? So he's powerful. He huffs a laugh. He is power itself. He looks over his shoulder as if someone could be listening, watching. This is the second time someone has said something about being able to summon Vander Everen. After they eat, the sky horse appears and it takes them out of the woods. Aris and Raker make it to an abandoned ruined castle on an island, and at this point he is very much done with her. He is like, you keep putting me in danger, which he's not wrong. He only ended up in the Bone Woods and was taken off course because of her. She cries, which is like the worst possible thing that she could have done. I get it. I probably would have cried, but like, it's just not the time. Also, he's so mean. Again, I'll say he's so mean. It's chapter 25 and Aris decides to leave the castle. So Raker was just very, very mean to her and she's over it. So she decides to not burden him anymore. Valen or Valen, it's spelled V-A-L-E-N. So this is a person from Cadoc's party. They find Aris and they inform Aris that there's a bounty on her head. There's also a bounty for Raker. So instead of leaving, she goes back to find Raker and to warn him. When Raker hears that there's a bounty on both of their heads, he immediately is like, it has to be because of our swords, which of course it is. There's a cavalry after them, and because of the colors that they carry, Aris realizes it belongs to the gods. So I guess it's a silver color. I don't actually think that she said it was silver, but you know, silver is the color of the gods. She associated whatever banner they're holding with the gods, so the gods are after her. They're holding a silver banner. Aris and Raker settle in for the night. in a cave. Again, Aris starts realizing that Starside is slightly better off than Stormside, but not completely. So, meaning, like, obviously, Starside is better off. That's why they go there. Being there, like, the danger that's there, the corruption, she realizes that they have their own issues. In conclusion, the gods suck. They are the equivalent of billionaires in our world. They're powerful, but they hoard all of the power, all of the magic, and they don't care to help anyone else other than themselves. Raker, Aris, they fall asleep and they hear hooves, so they wake up. They run away from the cavalry. At one point, Aris says that whenever Raker says her name, that the bottom of my spine curls. When I think of my spine curls, I literally think like is that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Aris, so they're getting towards the other end of the cave, I guess, and Aris thinks she sees sunlight, but it's not sunlight, it's actually a demon that breathes fire. This demon that breathes fire, which I don't know what it looks like, but this demon, it wants them to look at it. Aris presses against Raker to avoid the fire. I don't know if the demon can't see them. I don't know why the demon doesn't just shimmy to the right a little bit. Suddenly, what feels like out of nowhere, Aris is suddenly like, I am touch-starved. I want this man. It's only been a few weeks. So, I wonder why she's so horny. But good for her, I guess. I don't know. High libido. But instead of pushing her away, surprisingly, Raker goes for it. They start getting handsy. And at this point, I quite literally stopped and went, what? It doesn't make sense that we're here. I know people do weird things in desperate situations. People are weird. Human beings are weird. But personally, if I was in fear of my life, like there's a bounty on my head, like people are trying to catch me, don't touch me. I need to get out of the situation first. I would be like, I need you to stand by the wall, face the wall, turn around, you're in timeout. Raker kills the fire demon and pushes Aris off of him, and he tells her, this was nothing. You are nothing. Don't get close to me again. Aris just explains that this desire to get it on with Raker was influenced and heightened by the demon. Even if that was the case, there was no getting to know each other. There has been no getting to know each other. Like, they kind of bonded over foraged mushrooms and berries. And all he did was kind of like laugh a little bit at something she said, like barely. We know about Aris because like her whole entire character arc is that she's trying to get revenge on the gods for destroying her whole entire life and her family. But there's not a lot going into these characters. We're in chapter 28, and this is honestly a scene that could have been cut out, like seriously. What happens is they're walking through a bog, and it's honestly like really similar to the scene in the Two Towers when Frodo falls into the dead marshes. He sees a bunch of dead men and elves, except in this bog marshy area in Starside, it's ghost infested, and they have to fight skeletal monsters. Do they win? No, they die, and the story ends there. Chapter 29, Aris and Raker pass out. I believe they were poisoned by one of the skeletal monsters that they were fighting at the end of chapter 28. Aris wakes up to two women taking care of her, and her sword is nowhere to be seen, and she asks for it immediately, but it is with the blacksmith. Aris' sword cannot be moved. It's one of those types of weapons, like Raker's weapon, where she has to be killed for another person to claim it. How can the blacksmith move it? How does he have it? That is, in this world, one of the powers that blacksmiths have is that they can move any weapon, claimed or not. So the writing is a little better than Lightlark. So there's a false impression that it is a better book. As you read more and get further into the book, you realize how much repetition there is. So in this scene, Aris is bathing again. She's bathing again. I think that when Aris was taking a bath in the beginning, so we get like a reveal because she's been wearing clothes to cover herself and we don't really know why, and then she takes off her clothing and we know that she's, she has markings on her body. Because of the bath, that's how we learn about that, so that's fine. It's It's constant bathing, and I think because like Alex Aster doesn't know what else to do. So we have to have them bathe and sleep and eat and then fight again. Aris gets dressed and goes to meet the elders. And it turns out the people who saved her and Raker are not immortals, but failings. So the failings travel around forests, and Aris found them because a woman dressed in silver led her to them. So despite wearing silver, this woman is not a god. The elders instead call her the Astral Queen. And because the Astral Queen helped Aris, this is a sign that she wants Aris to complete her mission, whatever it is she thinks that it is. But the elders and the other failings are unnerved by this, because if the Astral Queen wants Aris to succeed, that means the gods do not. Why? I don't know. They don't say. But apparently the gods and the Astral Queen have beef, and I wish I knew what it was. The failing elders want Aris to leave now because they are scared. The fairies, the failings, whatever, they seem to be pretty neutral in all of this. Nothing crazy happens. So yeah, they're pretty neutral. They seem to maybe fear the gods, like retribution, but they are able to be convinced to let Aris and Raker stay for at least the night. And this is a good thing and safe for them. The failings are outside, I guess. Like their traveling city exists outside in this world, in the woods, and even though it's nighttime, they are safe because the entire city is covered in light. I wonder why everybody doesn't just have constant fire and light burning. C'est la vie, I guess. So it's nighttime, and Aris runs into Raker. He wants to duel, but her sword is still with the blacksmith, so he tells her to call for her sword the way that he does. Again, like Thor or like Kratos. Aris doesn't know how to do this though. So she calls its name. She doesn't know its name, but she meditates a little bit, and its name is Stellaris. Now, I listened to this part on audiobook. I thought that the narrator said Dolores, and I made like a bunch of notes. I made a bunch of notes complaining about it because I was like, who names a weapon Dolores in like a fantasy story? Like, what is this? Unless you're like Terry Pratchett and it's like a joke and it's supposed to be kind of silly. But like Stellaris, Dolores, you could mistake the two. Regardless, I'm going to keep saying Dolores because I think it's funny. We are 63% of the way in. I am now at chapter 30, and let's go over what has happened so far. Aris qualified for the culling. Her adoptive father died. She made it through the culling, got herself a fancy sword. She got through the gates to Starside to begin the Questral. She has made friends, lost friends. She joined a partnership with a man she hates. She found out she has a bounty on her head. She starts developing feelings for man she hates. She's had baths. She's almost died multiple times. And most importantly, she has had baths. Lots and lots of baths. So Aris visits the blacksmith. I have a little snippet from the first page of chapter 30. At first light, I visit the blacksmith. He's a tall, regally dressed man with perfect posture, dark skin, and long, lean limbs. Just like everyone else in this magic place, he emits a subtle glow. He eyes me warily, though that might be due to the hole in his window and the matching one right next to it. His forge is built into the base of a massive tree. Swords with clear crystal blades cover the walls. Silver speckles float within them like trapped stars. You don't use metal, I say, my lips parting in disbelief. You don't actually forge. I look around and barely see any of the materials that were crucial to making blades back home. There are different ways to forge weapons, he says smoothly, and various strengths to different materials. He motions at the wall. Failing swords are made of pure, distilled starlight. Incredible. I would have never thought something like this was even possible. In the forge, the blacksmith has materials from magical creatures that can be used to make swords called skylarks.
Because there is no way that these tire marks were made by a 64 Buick Skylark. These marks were made by a 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
So Aris asks if her sword is a skylark, It is not, it is a god sword. In Stormside, they call these god swords Starside metal. But the metal used for Dolores is called Palladian or Palladian on Starside, and it can only be found where the gods live. That's why it's a god sword. I'm gonna be honest, I looked up the twist because I couldn't help looking at it. I do spoil things for myself a lot, and I have no problem with doing that. I don't mind being spoiled. I feel like I might have figured it out without cheating. Maybe you have figured it out by now as well, but this is a big hint because the only other person we've seen with a sword like Aris's is Raker, and then that random immortal earlier, I guess. But keep that in mind. Aris and Raker leave the failing traveling city, but the female elder, aka Eldris, gives Aris a necklace made of tiny glass orbs with light inside of them. So this will prevent the demons who come out at night from attacking them. And so now they can move at night, especially when most of their enemies are not out. So, because everybody's afraid of these demons, even other immortals. So this is really helpful and an advantage. There's very few things that we really saw about failing culture. A lot of the things that were mentioned were never really addressed. So the Eldris's wings are broken. We don't know why. They mentioned the Astral Queen several times. We don't know what her purpose is. I don't even know much about her. The Failings love stars. They were born from them. So if she's the Astral Queen, I mean, I'm assuming she's their queen. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. They didn't really say. So next chapter, Aris and Raker are out alone. They do come across a group of people who are traveling, and they are seeking the failing traveling city. Raker lies to them when they ask if he and Aris have seen it. I don't really remember why they lied either, but so they all settle down for some food. Raker leaves while Aris meets a young immortal named Daphne. I was skeptical. Daphne seems very sweet, but I was skeptical because this whole thing feels very culty. It also sort of, honestly, I don't know much about like what Alex Aster likes. I don't know if she likes the Lord of the Rings at all. In the Fellowship of the Ring, they showed a little bit in the extended version, but not really. It's kind of like a reference. There's like a group of traveling elves, but in the Fellowship of the Ring, the first book, Frodo and Sam come across a group of, I think it's Noldor. It's safe to travel with them because, I mean, in general, orcs and other things are kind of threatened by Noldor. So just this kind of reminds me of that. And I'm not saying that like she took that or whatever. It's very similar. So they continue to travel as a complete group. They travel, eat, and sleep with the group, Aris and Raker. Aris wakes up one morning to Raker playing with kids. And I was like, oh my God, he's kind of nice to children for once. What a revelation. So the group travels with an orb of light. It's what keeps them safe from the demons. But the person carrying it drops it. So chaos breaks out. Monsters are trying to break from underneath the ground. And some of the immortals start attacking Aris because now she's the only person left with any type of light. She has the necklace that the Eldris Failing gave to her. Thankfully, and I was surprised by this, Daphne is a real one, and she helps Aris escape. So Raker takes Aris and clings to a mountainside for hours. Aris is desperate to help the others, but Raker is much stronger, much bigger, and he does not let her go. Come morning time, Aris is very angry with Raker because everyone from the traveling group is dead. I was on Reddit reading some of the reviews of this book, and someone pointed out that there are a lot of typos and errors. The huge one is mistaking the Centennial for the Questral and putting that in there. But here, Aris is angry at Raker, and she goes to attack Raker with her sword. So she says, blinded by my tears and fury, I unsheath my blade as fast as he taught me and hurl it through his back. Or I would have, if he hadn't unsheathed his sword so fast. So Aris and Raker, they start to fight. She says, I hate you. And he says, hate me harder. What's that mean? Hate is pretty succinct. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. She came back for him, tried to help him. Maybe that's what he's using as evidence that she's not hating him enough. I don't know. But so Raker makes Aris duel him regularly. Her attacking him, I guess, wasn't good enough. So he's using that as a teaching moment. And it is nighttime, and Aris decides to ask Raker for little small details about himself. She mentions not having ever seen the sea, and this is when we get some details about him. So he does give some details about how he grew up by the sea. She asks about his sword and how he got it. He claims he got it by killing the original owner. They argue again, but Rain and the cavalry that are hunting them interrupt them. So the light of Aris's necklace is attracting the cavalry. So he tells her to ditch the necklace and has her go into a cave where she waits for him. Before Raker gets back, a demon attacks Aris. But Raker comes, saves the day. However, not before the monster can rip the material that is covering Aris's neck. So now her silver markings are revealed. She has been keeping them hidden from Raker, and he's like, what are those? So we now finally get the story of how the silver markings on Aris's body came to be. So she was struck by lightning. And for the next couple of days, Aris seems really offended that Raker is not looking at her. My question is, he has made it clear that he does not like you. So why are we upset that he's not looking at you? He has called her weak. He has said that she was gonna die. Like, she's so weak that she's gonna die. I think she thinks that he thinks she's ugly. That's the least of the issues that you should have with him. He literally said you are nothing. So a silver snake attacks Aris, but Raker, he sucks the poison out of her. And so now he's almost about to die. Like, she was gonna die, but he's now about to almost die. According to her, the only two ways for him to not die are to either fight it or to have an antidote. So next time, if you by chance get bitten by like a rattlesnake or something, just fight off the poisoning. You can do it. Pull up your bootstraps and do it. But so she kind of uses her tactic that she used for Kira, I guess, and she uses it on Raker and has him talk about his family and his previous life. He tells her that he became a knight to survive. He and his family were starving. And then Aris reveals a little bit more of what her end goal is to him. So we all know, everybody knows, we who are reading it knows what Aris wants to do. She tells him, finally, she says, I know it's selfish. I say, our side is dying. People are suffering, but ever since that night, there's been a hole inside me. It's grown, devouring everything, every shred of empathy or kindness. I feel it withering. I don't want to care about anyone else. I cared about them, and they're gone, and this world is worse for it. My eyes burn. I smile weakly. I know it's wrong, but I would trade every single person in this world for them, without flinching. I shake my head. It's wrong, but it's the truth. This is not true. So there's nothing about Aris's behavior that shows someone who doesn't care about other people. I don't quite understand Aris because she does come off ruthless and selfish in the beginning, but then she like cries that an elk is killed in front of her. I just feel like there's a lot of contradictory elements to her character, and I don't think it's on purpose. If it is on purpose, then it's not really that clear. It seems like she, like Isla, she changes what her morals are and opinions and values based on what is needed for the scene. Isla seems very caring and kind, and then there are moments like when a character, was assaulted and she wanted Isla to teach her how to defend herself, and Isla acted like that was a huge ask. I think if maybe we just kept Aris kind of cynical. I mean, she cried because Raker was mean to her. Like, this is a person who, as a child, watched her whole entire village and family die and burn up to death. So I feel like she should be a much harder person. And then, of course, maybe something happens, like comes along later in the story where she's softens. So I don't know. I don't know, it's not working. Aris finally sees Raker's face, and surprise, surprise, he is the most beautiful man who has ever lived. This is chapter 33, and later on in the chapter, Aris and Raker are found by a group of immortals who are aware of the bounty on their heads and will take them to whoever's looking for them. Aris is not that skilled. I think she was supposed to be. I mean, that's kind of how she was portrayed, is that she Seems like she was trained and learned how to fight, but she's pretty much helpless. Raker is poisoned and moving really slow. Actually, I think he's not able to move, like, period. They are surrounded. They're SOL, and Aris uses this moment to finally summon Vander Evren. Whoever summons him has to duel him. Aris mentions Stellan, and he's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna take you back to my castle. He has no need for the bounty because he is very rich and very powerful. That is a bug. That's a fly. Come here. I want to kill you. Well, now it's gone. Vander invites Aris to dinner. Raker is in the stables as he recovers. Aris and Vander talk, and it is clear that he had a close relationship with Stellan. I was kind of hoping that they were gay. That would also be sad if that happened because Stellan died, so like it's probably a good thing that that didn't happen. Stellan trusted Vander, so Aris trusts him enough to tell him what her plans are, that she wants to kill the gods. This intrigues Vander, and he wants to help her. It's nighttime. Aris was asleep, but she woke up to check on Raker in the middle of the night. He is chained up because the people in the castle are afraid of him. In order to give him water, she has to, like, he's chained up. I think it's literally like he's chained up. So she has to help him drink. I'm gonna read to you a passage that made me drop my book and stare at the wall like I'm a character on The Office. She says, I watch his throat work with far too much interest. Everything about him is enormous. I wonder what, Aris, what are we thinking? There was a point in this book that I didn't include because it was just so, like, pointless, but I'm going to bring it up now because him being so large and her commenting on it reminded me there was a point in the book, it was many, many chapters ago, they were walking through water and it was waist deep for Aris, but knee deep for Raker. And I just can't visualize that as he 8 feet tall. Vander wants Aris to make alliances since her end goal is to kill the gods. Again, he's going to help her. So Vander shows Aris a map. It's like a 3D map. And this helps her visualize how far she has to go. If they go on foot to the land of the gods, it's going to take a really, really long time. Like, they're much, much farther away from their goal than they need to be. Portaling, the word portaling comes up again. Portaling and the term portaling comes up in Lightlark. And it's just so specific of a thing to use again because typically, I mean, for me, like, portaling, how it's described in Lightlark, it sounds more like teleportation. And teleportation is a more generic, like, general term. Portaling feels like a very Alex Aster specific word. In Starside, if a person can get an invitation to a great house, then they can portal from house to house. So this is the first time in the book, and we're more than halfway through, that we're really immersing ourselves in the Immortals culture. So there's more magic, there's more lore, there's more world building, and it gets more confusing. At my silence, Vander continues. Oaths bind to the blade itself. If the oath is broken, so is the sword. And depending on the connection, so is the wielder. You see, after much time, a wielder and their blade become almost one. The bond is just like riders and their creatures, especially for great swords like ours. So he says that the invitations are oaths, and an heir of a great house swearing on your sword is risky. I don't know why it's different than just like a regular person swearing on a sword, whatever. But so to meet them, Aris will have to attend a ball, and that will be taking place in 4 days, like, already. So it's just, you know, super convenient. And I didn't mean that. Sometimes I sound sarcastic. When I said that's super convenient, I meant that in a good way for the characters. I didn't mean it in a sarcastic way, like, regarding the book. It is convenient for Aris that there's going to be a ball soon, and so she can just attend and meet other heirs and make alliances. But so we have a princess dress up segment, and I don't really like necessarily mind these. I don't mind that we have these fantasy characters who can wield a blade but wants to wear or will and is willing to wear a sparkly dress. I think that's great. My dreams and hopes are shattered about Vander. I mean, it's possible, but so basically there's a courting season. Like, this is what the ball is for, is that Vander needs to look for a wife. And I'm just sad because, like, I just thought he was a little gay. But he does flirt with Aris a little bit. And he's like, you know, it's like a little like, are you interested? Like, wink, wink. Obviously, Aris is not interested in Vander. I don't know. I don't know what it is about like some writers unintentionally making their characters have really good chemistry with people who are not the male lead. I already liked Vander and Aris more. But so Aris needs a dress for the ball. It's called Heartfall, and Vander takes her to a room that is enchanted and it makes her a dress. She says, I gasp, which comes up about 45 times in this book. I looked it up. Vander, he teaches her about Starside, the great houses. He also teaches her how to dance. During one of the sessions, he sees her silver markings and he tells her that she doesn't need to cover them. That is interesting, and I don't remember what is so great about her silver markings. Aris is given a dress that shows her skin off, and she visits Raker so that his eyes can be blessed by her near nakedness. So Aris goes to the Heartfall ball. It is chapter 36. Aris is nervous, but Vander tells her that she is marked by the gods themselves, so everyone should be bowing to her. I thought that we wanted to kill the gods, so like, why do we care if she's marked by them? But so the Heartfall ball is not meant to meet the love of your life, which is how things like this happen in like real world royalty situations. So the immortals start calling Aris Silver Human as she dances with Vander, and then when that's done, she starts to mingle. They're all men. I thought we would mingle with everyone, but it's all men. The first guy Aris dances with is gross and perverted, per usual. How else we know that she's attractive if someone doesn't imply that they want to have sex with her? An heir from a great house named Magnus says Aris is beautiful. That was so easy. Just say that. Just say that. So Magnus gives Aris an invitation to his house. She dances with some more people. Eventually Raker appears. He's dressed up. He's ready to spin her around. He dances them out of the ballroom, kind of like the Cinderella scene from the Disney movie. They go into the hallway. They have a moment. They're pressed up against like a wall, I guess, but the moment is ruined because there's literally blood on the wall. And I shit you not, this is so random. I don't know if this is cool or not, but Vander is a bloodbane, which is like basically a vampire. I don't get it. Like, are immortals, like, are they all different types of things? I don't get it. Is he a vampire? Like, are there immortals who are vampires and some are like witches and sorcerers? Or is immortal just like a species of people and then like they could be cursed to be a bloodbane? I don't know. Aris and Raker go to meet with Vander and the heirs, and when she arrives, they're talking about a prophecy. Of course we have a prophecy. We have a prophecy in Lightlark. They can't tell her about the prophecy because prophecies are passed down and earned and would break the vow of their swords. Only 4 heirs agree to work with Aris, and they provide her with invitations. So Magnus, Lord Rodin, someone from House Drake, and then I guess the 4th would be Vander. Vander then gifts a scabbard that will prevent her sword from being called even by a blacksmith, and then they leave Vander's house. They continue on their quest. They arrive at House Rodin. And so the house is meant to honor the god of death, and there's all sorts of statues depicting the god of death. So an attendant shows them their rooms, their separate rooms. They are right next to each other, so gee, I wonder what's going to happen. But Raker continues down the hallway to a library where there are more depictions of the god of death. Aris makes a comment about the god of death being attractive, and they banter. When I say banter, the banter in this book is literally just her bothering him and then him being an absolute ass. But it comes out in this conversation that he does not kiss anyone. It is too intimate for him. They go to sleep, but no, wait. Aris goes to visit House Rodin's forge because the blacksmith there might know which god her sword belongs to. So everyone in this house seems to be afraid of something, and when Aris gets to the forge, the blacksmith forces her out and then tells her to visit at midnight. So Aris is wearing a really tight dress, and she needs help taking it off. So she goes next door to the only person who is available to her, and that would be Raker. My knock echoes through the hall. My hand is still raised when it swings open. Surprise forcing me still. There he is, hoodless, shirtless, I swallow. I try very hard not to drop my gaze from his face. He doesn't try at all. Raker's eyes slip down to my dress and the way the top is hanging down from the few unraveled ties I was able to reach. He blinks slowly. I need help, I explain hastily. I turn around and show him the back, looking at him from over my shoulder. You tied it so tight I can barely breathe. Oh yeah, I guess he's the one that tied it, whatever. So with a sigh, he drags his massive hand down his face. That hand. Why am I admiring a hand? It's like a work of art, though. Calloused in all the right places, strong, perfect for wielding a sword, perfect for other tasks. So Aris has scars on her back, and Raker goes, "Who did this to you?" She says, "You did." We finally get the backstory as to why Aris hates Raker. So we get little hints throughout the book, and we know from the beginning she says, he didn't show her mercy when she needed it. So this is what happened. So Aris tried to sneak into the guards' practice area to train, I think, for the Questral or whatever. So Raker caught her and then he threw her in jail. He could have let her go, to be quite honest, but he put her in jail and the guards tortured her and carved their names into her back. So the guards were going to essay her, but they didn't because Stellan came and then offered weapons in exchange for her. So Raker claims that he did not know that they would do that. Remember, Raker is head of the King's Guard, so those are his men. I just don't understand how you didn't know that that's what they were doing. Like, you didn't hear them talk about it, like, even with other people. You don't know their nature. I mean, like, come on, dude. Aris runs out. I thought that this was when the sex scene would happen, but obviously this is not the time for that. It's midnight. Aris visits the blacksmith, but Lord Roden is there. Supposedly some of the immortals of the great houses were turning against the gods, and they wanted to do that. He has actually informed the god of death that Aris is there. The god of death wants Aris probably because she's the hottest lady in the land and everybody wants a piece of her. So Lord Roden and his soldiers try to attack Aris, but Raker's there again to save the day. Another thing in this book is that Aris throws up a lot. That's from Sarah J. Maas as well. Characters in reaction to violence or anxiety or fear, they will just throw up. I feel like there are better ways to show disgust, shock, anxiety than to constantly have your characters soil themselves or vomit. So Aris and Raker escape to the woods and they talk again about the incident. So Raker did not take Aris to prison. He took her to his men and then told them to get rid of her, like to just throw her out onto the street, which that's not better. But so I don't know why he couldn't have done it himself. I don't know. But he told his men to just throw her out onto the street. They instead disobeyed him and put her in prison. He apologizes and he actually is genuinely sorry. They walk through dunes where Vander warned Aris of a beast that makes people turn on each other. I don't recall seeing this beast, but what happens is that Aris gets pulled into the sand and she's confronted by her old memories. So her mom shows up in a distorted kind of manner and starts telling her that she's better off dead. Aris, there's a one-woman pity party after this. Eventually she does break out of the trance and then finds Raker fighting a memory that's not visible to her but is visible to him. Alex Aster has some sort of something where you can't visualize things in your head. And it's very obvious when certain things happen. And like in my head, it looks funny, but I don't think that's what she wanted to happen. Like Raker's just swinging his sword around. Pun not intended. Not right now, at least. He's like swinging his sword around and going, Aris, leave. He's fighting something. She can't see it. So he's just like throwing his sword around. And Aris is like, no, I'm not leaving. Oh, and mind you, there's like wind whipping around and like sand. So it's a sandstorm. So she gets him to stop whacking. And the little speech that she gives him, I see you, Raker, is what she says. I see past the blood on these hands. I see past your mistakes. And I hate that you can't look at your reflection because I never want to stop looking at you, Raker. Careful not to move forward even an inch, my other hand reaches up to slide across his cheek. His body flinches, shaking with a chill. Still, his sword does not drop from my throat. One sudden movement and I'm done. I'll bleed out all over the sand. I don't know how we got here. She was very mad at him. And like, understandably so, because he's responsible in part for her almost being killed by a bunch of brutes. She sees him fighting some invisible past memory, which could be anything. But suddenly she has softened towards him. She says, I want you, Raker. I want to find you again when all of this is over. I want to see what life might look like beyond the misery, beyond the vengeance. You make me want to see what's left for me. You make me want to build a life in the world of ashes. So please, please, open your eyes. Open. He does, and then they hug. They get to a cliff with a waterfall. They bathe. They sleep in a cave. Next morning, Aris sees Kadok's dragon, so she goes to confront him alone. I don't know why, but Kadok has Kira's sword, which means that he killed her, so she never made it back to Zara. And that sucks. But so Raker wakes up and Aris can hear him and his clanking armor. So he's running to her, right? Running if she can hear that armor clanking. Aris and Kadok were dueling. Kadok's dragon swoops down and then they're battling on the back of a dragon. I feel bad because I think Alex Aster thought them fighting on the back of a dragon would be super cool. Unfortunately, I did skim through this scene. Aris gets pushed off the dragon and then she falls into a city that was on the map of Starside. It's called City on Fire. It is literally on fire, and Aris breaks everything. So City on Fire is literally on fire, like I said. I do not know why. Raker comes to save Aris. Kadok is still circling around. Why is he not going to go get magic? Why is he so focused on this girl? But Aris passes out, and Raker summons a failing from the traveling city. And when Aris wakes up, there's no more pain, and she is completely healed. I'm gonna say Este. So Este, again, she's one of the failing women that we had met when Aris and Raker were with the traveling city. Once failings leave the traveling city, they cannot go back, and I don't know why. Este is very supportive of Aris and wants to help her, so this is a worthy reason to leave her city, leave her sister. I believe she had a sister that she left. Este healed Aris's broken bones, but despite being dropped into flames, Aris had no burns. Why? Aris is immune to heat. So whatever the markings have done, they have made her impervious to flame, heat, fire, etc. So it's chapter 42. Aris and Raker are given a deluxe cave to sleep in for the night. We're getting to it. So blah blah. So she says evidence of the duel is gone. The duel between Aris and Kadok. I sink to my knees, sit on my heels, tilt my head up to the water, and let it soak my every inch. Drops like cold fingers threading through the roots of my hair, smoothing my rough edges, letting me forget, for just a moment, how much of my own blood was shed today. How much more will be shed tomorrow? Tomorrow, the day I finally face the gods, I sigh and release a fraction of the tension in my stress-coiled bones. When I'm done, I turn to see Raker standing very still, watching, in the same place he was 10 minutes ago. His expression is the same as it's always been. Closed off, heartless, cold, but we've survived weeks across Starside together. We've slayed creatures with claws like swords. We've made it out of castle rooms, painted red with blood. We've survived demons that crawl into our minds. As much as I hate it, and him, I know him. I can see the slight tension in his shoulders, the way the vein down his sword-wielding arm is taut, how his frown doesn't reach his eyes. His frown doesn't reach his eyes.
Whatever that means.
There's one thing I haven't tried. I can't believe the words have left my mouth. The Aris from weeks before is screaming from the past. What are you doing? Don't humiliate yourself. Girl. Yeah, no, that's me. That's me talking to you. But even though I knew from the start that this would kill me, being so close to all too imminent death makes me fearless. It makes me ask for exactly what I want, for the very first time in my life. I don't shrink under Raker's gaze, not the way I have before. I don't bend under his unrelenting scrutiny. Are you truly so desperate? He finally says, his voice harsh, but he's said worse. So have I. Yes, I reply. I don't understand Alex Aster's obsession with throwing stars. She uses that phrase a lot in the Lightlark books, like to the point that it's said multiple times in one book. So here in chapter 42 is where we get the infamous multi-page sex scene. So he tells her to get on your hands and knees. And she says, fuck, we're really doing this. I swallow. He traces the movement with his eyes. He's focusing far too closely on my neck. Carefully, very carefully, gaze never leaving his, I lower myself onto the sheets. I turn my back to him. For a moment, I wait for the sound of his sword scraping out of his scabbard. I wait for him to betray me and slay me while I'm at my most vulnerable. There is a sound of metal. His armor. He's taking it off, piece by piece. I said your hands and knees, he says, his voice a dark and brutal command. I bend over. Do as he says. I really am desperate, aren't I? Yes. Right now, yes. I'm desperate and aching. These weeks have been about survival, but right now, before my almost guaranteed death, I want this. My back arches and a shiver licks down my spine. I'm more exposed than I've ever been in my life. I swear I hear a barely restrained growl behind me. Okay. Together we shatter, together our gazes locked until he closes his eyes sharply and curses so loudly it echoes through the cave. The cave. I almost forgot where we were, how we got here, who exactly I was doing this with. His eyes open again. We're staring at each other, both panting, chests meeting. We're waiting for who is going to make the next move. You would think that they're done. They're not done. Embarrassment and shame sink through me. Maybe we shouldn't have done this. I feel so raw, so exposed. And he's never going to let me forget it. I open my mouth and Harlan Raker does the last thing I would ever expect. He kisses me. His lips trace against mine and I gasp the melt. As his tongue traces my parted lips, it's not gentle, it's punishing, the way he kisses me. Like he wants to swallow my breaths and words and protests. Like he didn't just tell me he hates me. Like he didn't say days before that this very act is more intimate than having sex and that he would never allow someone to get that close to him. He's doing it now, very thoroughly. He's biting my bottom lip so hard, he's drawing blood, and then he's licking that too, and he's stroking my teeth and the top of my mouth like he's trying to taste and savor every single inch of me. My body bows off the wall as my world shatters into 1,000 glimmering steel pieces. I gasp, and then his mouth is on mine again, claiming it, swallowing every pant and cry, and I cling to him as he takes me through every shuddering wave, and then again, like he's trying to wring every bit of pleasure from my body. It's still not enough, not even close. I know what you need. And they still go. Stroking the shape of me like I'm a map he wants to memorize. Chills erupt across my heated skin, and he touches all of them, feeling how my body responds to his, learning how to make me prickle even more, studying me not like an enemy he wants to conquer, but like an opponent he wants to surrender to. He's touching my body with the care and reverence he's only ever reserved for his sword, like I'm more precious than its metal, like I'm more dangerous than its edge, like he wants to claim me more than any other weapon. He does it again, faster. My eyes close tightly against the surging wave of pleasure. Oh my god, it's still going. Aris, he says, his voice a tortured rasp. You will be the fucking end of me. This scene will be the fucking end of me. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He wasn't supposed to be the cure to everything I never knew I needed. This was supposed to be quick and meaningless, but his previously unmarred chest is now marked with long lines where I clawed at him. I can feel blood hot against my lip where he bit me. My neck is tender. There's an undeniable soreness between my legs. What are the birth control tactics we're using? But there's probably like a T or something. We've ruined each other, and by the time we finally go to sleep in the pile of sheets, we've ruined each other even more. I need a cigarette after reading that, and I don't smoke. I barely even drink. It's chapter 43. Aris wakes up the next day to find her body is sore and that Raker is missing. Also, her sword is gone. He took her sword. Of course, Raker will have a story as to why he left, but regardless, he left a naked woman alone in a cave and left her completely defenseless, by the way. So she has no weapon. There are men that come into this cave, and of course they make lurid comments about Aris, but she fights naked, which honestly I kind of respect. She's in such a fury that she kills everyone, and good for her. I don't know if Aris is still naked, but she speaks to the Astral Queen. I think she is, because the Astral Queen like summons clothes for Aris and her body. She even gives her armor. The Astral Queen tells Aris that swords bond to people's souls. So people who are in love can use the other's sword, and that is how Raker was able to take Aris' sword. Now, you might be asking, does he love her?
Are you crazy? Maybe so.
Aris's dragon is back. Yay. Chapter 45. We are almost done. Aris runs into Zane on the way to the land of the gods. He got a helm hawk and a cup of magic. Woo! He tells Aris that I guess Kadok is now immortal, like he did the turn. I don't know what's going on. Aris tells Zane that Kira died. It's really not like she matters. Zane is like, oh man, and then he goes on about his way. The book would have been a lot better. I'll just say it here if they stayed together. Chapter 46. Aris was the goddess who killed everyone in her village. This is the god of travels, I guess. The goddess was threatened by a prophecy, and that's why she did this. If that's the case, why kill everyone in the village and then leave Aris? Aris was the one that did not burn, but like there's other ways that she can die. No, like you didn't go back to check that everyone was actually dead. Aris pulls one over on the goddess and is able to have her dragon eat her. It's so quick and so easy. Like this is the goddess that caused all of Aris's issues. This is the goddess that made Aris literally the whole like motivation for this book, and why this book exists is because Aris's family was killed by this goddess, and it is her sole purpose in life to get to the land of gods and kill all the gods, and then the goddess that killed her family is just eaten by a dragon. Chapter 47. Aris summons the god of death. Instead of bringing him to her, she is transported to him. And can you guess who it is? So I spoiled it for myself because I wanted to see, I skipped to the end because I wanted to see if there was a point where these two ever got nicer to each other. And then I managed to skip to the sex scene where he was like, I hate you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess we never got to the point where we actually said that we love each other. But apparently they do actually love each other because they can use each other's swords. So Raker, yes, he is the god of death. And when Aris is presented to him, he has killed the god of war. The god of war took the mantle of god of death, and then that's why there was like these demons running around, and also he was wanting like brides, so he was mishandling the underworld. Raker is a human, or at least was. So in this scene, Aris realizes that he is even more beautiful than he was before, and that's because Raker is officially a god again. So this is what he did. He says, I suspected the gods were plotting against me. So during the last Questral, so this was 50 years ago, he traveled to Stormside and buried a shred of his soul in Starside. And he says, when the god of war finally tried to kill me, he failed to kill all of me. I awoke on Stormside as a human, he says. He glances at the cup. I needed the magic to access my powers again. Aris is mad. Raker lied, but she has not been honest either. And this is like, what? So he says, don't pretend you were honest with me, Aris. He says, do you think I don't know who you are? He takes another step. Aris Agron, Aris of House Agron, one of the great houses of Stormside. My teeth lock together. It's been years since I heard my full name spoken. I lost it that day when my house burned to the ground. I don't know why that matters to him, but it looks like it does. It looks like my lineage could mean more than I'm aware of. Aris wants to fight, but Raker kind of breaks through her anger, and they kind of share in like a quiet, tender moment. He tells her he left to protect her
from himself.
And then Raker, god of death, wants Aris to join him so that they can take down the gods together. With their two swords combined, they can conquer all other swords. They kiss. Aris tells Raker she loves him. Then she stabs him. This would be kind of cool and funny if this exact thing didn't happen in Lightlark between Grimm and Isla. She literally stabbed him. That's how they met. Chapter 48, it's the last chapter. Raker is more concerned with Aris's love confession than being stabbed, which, I mean, he's not gonna die, so, but he's not even like, he got stabbed, not even the first thing on his mind. He like wants to know if she really meant it. Aris was trying to book it to Stormside because once she's there, the gates will close for 50 years and Raker cannot cross, allegedly. So this is the very end of the book. My heart thunders as I run faster than I ever have before. I run for all the people I have lost and all the ones who will fall if Raker gets his hands on these swords. I run for the hope that I will figure out a way to kill him and bring my family back. I will be patient. I will be strong for them, always for them. The gates are almost closed, and even the god of death can't stop them. A growl sounds in the back of my throat as I throw myself through, and a hand locks around my ankle, dragging me back. Raker. I turn and he's right above me. This is my last chance. I think about his words. I am death. Maybe the problem was I used my own blade. Maybe to kill him I need to use his. I drag his sword out of the scabbard and bury it in his heart. Again, his eyes blaze with fury. It doesn't work. The gates are almost closed. I thrash below him, but he won't let go. He won't let me go. A shriek cleaves the sky in half. My dragon lands behind him, rattling the ground. He loses his hold for just one moment. It's all I need. In a flash, I'm on my feet, and then I'm soaring through the gates again, my body brushing the metal, just slipping through. I land roughly on the other side. Raker crashes into the gates on a moment after, but he's too late. He roars as he tries to wrench them open, to take them down, and under his godly power, those towering gates shudder, but they do not break. His eyes slide down to me, still panting on the bridge. His own blade is still sticking through his chest. I rise to my feet and stand right in front of him. I grip the bars just as he does. We stare at each other through the silver, chest heaving, only metal between us. He looks down at the sword still in my scabbard, then he looks back up at me. These gates won't keep me from you, he says. He says it like a curse. I press as close to him as I can. He's just inches away, but he might as well be across the world. See you in 50 years, Raker, I whisper. Then I turn back toward my home of ashes. And that is the end. So, yeah, I was hoping it would be a little better when I started reading it. It seemed a little better than Lightlark, and then like as I was reading, I was like, oh, this is just the same vibe pretty much. I don't know, but I'm now tired. That sex scene really took a lot out of me. So I am going to take my dog out. I'm going to feed her and I'm going to eat dinner. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.